Chapter 1. The Lost and the Forgotten. The galaxy stretched endlessly, a boundless expanse of stars, planets, and civilizations, each with its own customs, ambitions, and complexities. Yet amid the diversity, a dark undercurrent wove through the systems an unspoken acceptance of the suffering inflicted upon weaker species. One of these unfortunate races was the Sirenids. Originating from the oceanic planet Lyris, they were ethereal beings known for their gentle beauty, their melodic voices, and their ability to soothe minds with song and empathy. Once a thriving civilization, the Sirenids had built a peaceful society on the serene shores of their water-laden home, living in harmony with nature and devoted to art, healing, and wisdom. But as galactic travel advanced, Lyris was discovered by outsiders, and the Sirenids' quiet lives were upended. Their allure became their downfall, as they were commodified and sold to the highest bidders. For their calming presence and healing powers, they were marketed as status symbols, exotic companions, and, at worst, playthings for the powerful. Their planet was soon picked apart, like carrion stripped by vultures, until only a few Sirenids remained in the ruins of what had once been a flourishing society. Trapped and transported across systems, the Sirenids were kept as trophies, their songs silenced, their spirits broken. And over time, they were forgotten at least by those in positions of power who saw them as nothing more than objects to possess. But for the Sirenids, each generation passed down stories of Lyris, of their lost homeland, and of the ancient prophecy of a haven, a place where they would once again be free, safe, and valued. As years turned to decades and then centuries, the hope of freedom flickered like a fragile flame. However, there remained a whisper in the dark, a murmur among the enslaved Sirenids, that the haven still existed. It was said to be a sanctuary, hidden away in the vast reaches of space, beyond the grasp of their oppressors. Rumors suggested that an elder Sirenid, known only as Aria, had managed to evade capture and had been working tirelessly to gather her people, waiting for the day they could reunite. But hope was a rare luxury. The Sirenids had few allies and fewer resources to protect themselves from the ruthless beings who preyed upon them. Then, one fateful day, a transmission was received on Earth, a faint, desperate plea for refuge, a signal carrying the unmistakable tremor of despair and the faintest glimmer of hope. Earth, a relatively new entrant in the galactic community, was known for its fierce defense of freedom and justice. The message was directed to the humans, who had not yet fully established themselves among the powerful species, but had garnered a reputation for empathy. Aria's message was brief but powerful, pleading for a place of safety for her people. The Global Council of Earth was moved to action, convening representatives from all nations in an emergency session. Never before had they been approached in such a way, and the honor of being seen as protectors did not escape them. Unanimously, they agreed to take a stand, to reach out into the stars and offer refuge to the Sirenids. Commander Lien Prescott was appointed to lead the rescue mission. A former Space Forces officer turned diplomat, Lien was renowned for her empathy and unwavering commitment to justice. Her own background was steeped in tragedy. She had grown up in the shadow of a war-torn planet, losing family to the cruelty of a powerful regime. She understood, perhaps better than most, what it meant to be at the mercy of those in power. With a hand-picked team of specialists, she set out across the galaxy, determined to find and bring home the Sirenids who had been scattered, imprisoned, and abused. Chapter 2. A New Dawn on Earth. The journey to locate and rescue the Sirenids was fraught with peril. Commander Lien Prescott's team, equipped with Earth's most advanced ships and state-of-the-art technology, ventured deep into dangerous territories where lawlessness reigned. These were regions controlled by criminal syndicates, smugglers, and tyrannical planetary rulers who saw the Sirenids as nothing more than valuable property, dismissing their sentience in favor of profit and power. The team faced hostile resistance at every turn, each encounter serving as a grim reminder of the magnitude of the struggle they were waging against entrenched systems of greed and cruelty. One particularly harrowing mission saw Lien's team intercept a massive ship orbiting an isolated moon, which had been disguised as a freighter. Upon closer inspection, it was revealed to be a floating prison carrying dozens of Sirenids in stasis pods, kept frozen until they could be auctioned off on a black market world. As they boarded the ship, The Earth rescue team faced fierce opposition from mercenary guards, all heavily armed and willing to protect their cargo at any cost. A firefight erupted in the narrow corridors of the ship, with Lien and her team using non-lethal measures wherever possible to avoid endangering the Sirenids. Once they secured the ship, Lien moved cautiously from pod to pod, her heart breaking as she saw the frozen expressions on each Sirenid's face, expressions of terror and desperation that had been locked in time. She knew these individuals had been trapped in a nightmare, living in perpetual fear and isolation. Her hands trembled slightly as she activated each pod, watching the Sirenids slowly awaken, blinking in disorientation and fear. She knelt beside each of them, speaking softly, explaining in gentle tones that they were now free and on their way to safety. This pattern continued over the following months as Lien's team moved across the galaxy, uncovering secret installations, raiding illegal trading posts, and liberating Sirenids from dark places few would dare to go. Every mission was a risk, and each success brought them closer to their goal. Slowly, word spread across the galaxy that Earth had become a sanctuary for the Sirenids. Some captors, realizing that their trade was being systematically dismantled by humans, released their Sirenids in hopes of avoiding retribution. Others doubled down, tightening their grip, believing they could outlast or intimidate the humans into abandoning their crusade. But Earth's resolve remained unshaken. For each Sirenid saved, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder of why they had undertaken this mission in the first place. These were living beings who had been stripped of their freedom, denied the right to their own lives, and Earth would not stand by and watch it happen any longer. Each time Lien saw the weary, grateful faces of the freed Sirenids, she knew they were doing something profoundly right. Eventually, the rescue efforts brought dozens of Sirenids safely to Earth. Upon their arrival, they were met not by armed guards or scientists, but by a delegation of Earth's leaders and a group of volunteers, all eager to welcome them. The humans had created a sanctuary in a secluded valley, an untouched reserve designed to mimic the beauty and peace of Lyris, their long-lost home. Surrounded by lush forests, crystal-clear streams, and vast, open skies, the sanctuary was a place where the Sirenids could finally breathe freely. As the Sirenids disembarked, many of them were overcome with emotion, their eyes widening as they took in the landscape, so different from the cold, confined spaces of their imprisonment. Earth's air, filled with the scents of wildflowers and fresh rain, was like a balm to their senses, and for the first time in years, they felt the touch of sunlight on their faces without fear. However, many of the Sirenids remained wary. They had been conditioned to expect cruelty, to flinch at even the smallest hint of authority, and to distrust any gesture of kindness. Earth's leadership, fully aware of the deep scars left by years of trauma, approached them with patience and understanding. Medical professionals and therapists were on hand, but they waited for the Sirenids to approach at their own pace, respecting their autonomy. The goal was not to impose, but to allow healing to begin organically. Commander Lien made it a point to spend time in the sanctuary every day. She walked among the Sirenids, sharing stories of Earth, explaining their customs, and answering their questions with genuine openness. She wanted them to understand that this wasn't just another place of captivity, but a true sanctuary. Slowly, her sincerity won them over, and the Sirenids began to see her not as a rescuer, but as a friend. One young Sirenid named Eileen, who had been among the first to be rescued, was especially curious. She had been separated from her family years ago and had lost nearly all hope of ever finding peace. But Earth's kindness had stirred something within her, a tentative flicker of hope that she hadn't felt in years. She began to open up, asking Lien questions about her people, her culture, and her childhood on Earth. In turn, Lien asked Eileen to share stories of Lyris, listening intently to every detail, honoring the Sirenids' history and heritage. As the days passed, the Sirenids were encouraged to explore the sanctuary, to walk barefoot on the soft earth, to feel the gentle embrace of water in the streams, and to raise their voices in song once more. The humans were captivated by the Sirenids' music, a sound so profound that it seemed to carry the weight of every sorrow, every joy, and every moment of resilience these beings had known. Sirenid songs became a nightly tradition in the sanctuary, with Earth volunteers and Sirenids gathering around, sharing food, laughter, and stories. For the Sirenids, it was a slow journey toward trust. Their lives had been filled with pain, and the scars of that suffering could not be erased overnight. But Earth's steady compassion and respect for their individuality helped them rebuild their self-worth. They were not seen as curiosities or commodities, but as friends, equals, and respected guests. Eileen found her voice one evening as she stood before a crowd of humans, her slender form silhouetted against the setting sun. With tears in her eyes, she sang a song of her people, a haunting melody that spoke of loss and longing, of a home left behind and a future yet unseen. The humans listened in reverent silence, moved to their core by the depth of her pain and the beauty of her spirit. That night marked a turning point. The Sirenids began to see Earth as more than a refuge. It was a place where they could be free to rediscover themselves, to heal, and perhaps to one day rebuild. The humans had given them something they hadn't felt in centuries: hope. The Sirenids' journey was far from over, but on Earth, they had found the first glimmer of a new beginning. Together, humans and Sirenids forged a bond built not on power or possession, but on mutual respect, compassion, and the understanding that, no matter how different they might seem, they shared a common humanity that transcended stars and species. Chapter 3. The Healing Touch of Humanity. The Sirenids began to heal, not just physically but emotionally, as they settled into life on Earth. The sanctuary, which had initially been a place of refuge, slowly evolved into something greater. It became a community, a place where the Sirenids could interact with Earth's people, learn about human cultures, and explore a freedom they had never known. Each day brought a new experience, and with every sunrise, the Sirenids found themselves a step closer to reclaiming their identities. For some of the Sirenids, though, the trauma ran deep. They had spent years, even decades, trapped in a cycle of abuse and confinement, conditioned to flinch at the slightest touch, to silence their voices, and to hide their true selves. The scars of those years were not easily erased, but Earth's commitment to their recovery was unwavering. Trained counselors, volunteers, and trauma specialists dedicated their time to helping the Sirenids rebuild, patiently working through layers of pain and mistrust. Leanne Prescott was especially hands-on, making it a personal mission to connect with the Sirenids on a deeper level. She was no stranger to loss and suffering herself, and her empathy resonated with them in a way few others could match. She led workshops, organized gatherings, and arranged for humans and Sirenids to share meals together, encouraging them to exchange stories and ideas. Slowly, the Sirenids began to understand that Earth had not rescued them out of pity, but out of genuine compassion and a desire for kinship. One day, Eileen approached Leanne with an idea. Inspired by her interactions with Earthlings and seeing the therapeutic benefits of song, she proposed a joint Project A fusion of Sirenid and human music that would be performed as a gift to Earth. The song would embody the spirit of unity and healing that had blossomed between them. Leanne, moved by Eileen's vision, immediately rallied support for the project, enlisting musicians, sound engineers, and artists from around the world to contribute. In the months that followed, Eileen worked closely with Earth's musicians, teaching them the unique rhythms and scales of Sirenid music, while learning about human instruments and harmonies. It was a powerful experience for both sides. The Sirenids were surprised by the depth of human music, which, like their own, carried the weight of joy, sorrow, resilience, and longing. Meanwhile, humans marveled at the Sirenids' ability to evoke complex emotions with their voices alone, a haunting, ethereal sound that seemed to resonate with something primal within them. As the collaborative song took shape, it became more than just music. It became a symbol of the shared experiences of loss and healing, a bridge between two worlds. People from around Earth tuned in as the song was broadcast live, watching as Sirenids and humans stood side by side on a stage set up in the sanctuary's open fields, surrounded by nature. Eileen stood at the center, her voice rising in a haunting solo that spoke of ancient shores and forgotten dreams, each note resonating with centuries of her people's sorrow and hope. As the human musicians joined in, the song swelled into a beautiful, unified crescendo, a blending of Earth's raw, emotional chords and the Sirenids' intricate, lilting melodies. It was a sound that defied categorization, transcending both languages and species, reaching into the hearts of everyone who heard it. Across the galaxy, those who had once been complicit in the Sirenids' suffering watched in awe, realizing that Earth had not only given the Sirenids a home but had helped them rediscover their voice. In the days following the performance, the sanctuary became a place of pilgrimage for Earthlings and Sirenids alike. Humans traveled from across the world to meet the Sirenids, to thank them for their music, their stories, and their courage. Sirenids who had once felt isolated found themselves embraced by communities, invited to participate in cultural events, and welcomed as equals. They began teaching their healing practices to human doctors, collaborating with Earth scientists to develop new methods of therapy that combined Sirenid empathy with human technology. One Sirenid healer named Lyra started a program that combined meditation techniques from Lyris with Earth's therapeutic practices, creating a method of trauma recovery that quickly gained popularity. The sessions were held in a tranquil grove within the sanctuary, where humans and Sirenids gathered together to meditate, reflect, and heal. Each session ended with the Sirenid participants sharing stories, using their empathic abilities to help humans process their own emotions. It became clear that the Sirenids' presence on Earth was not only a gift to the Sirenids, but also a profound enrichment for humanity. As the months turned to years, Earth and the Sirenids forged a deep bond built on respect and admiration. Together, they began to craft a future that honored both cultures. The Sirenids shared their vast knowledge of natural healing, their unique artistic expressions, and their philosophy of harmony with nature, while humans offered them technological support, education, and the freedom to explore their own potential. The Galactic Federation, initially skeptical of Earth's involvement with the Sirenids, began to take notice of the remarkable transformation occurring on Earth. News spread throughout the galaxy of the Sirenids' new lives, of how they had found a sanctuary among humans, and how they were thriving. Other species, particularly those who had suffered at the hands of the powerful, looked to Earth as a beacon of hope. They saw that Earth had not only provided refuge for the Sirenids, but had given them a voice, a purpose, and a future. But not everyone was pleased with the growing influence of Earth and the empowerment of the Sirenids. Powerful factions that had profited from Sirenid trafficking saw Earth's actions as a threat to their interests, and whispers of retaliation began to circulate. Reports reached Lien's team of mercenaries and spies attempting to infiltrate the sanctuary, seeking to reclaim the Sirenids or sabotage their integration on Earth. Tensions rose, and Lien found herself on high alert, knowing that the Sirenids' new home was still vulnerable to those who sought to control them. In response, Earth tightened its security around the sanctuary, enlisting the aid of allied species who had supported the Sirenids' liberation. Together, they formed a coalition dedicated to protecting vulnerable beings across the galaxy, pledging to stand against any force that threatened the sanctuary. For the first time, Earth took a stance on the galactic stage, declaring itself a haven for all who sought refuge from oppression and exploitation. Despite the growing threats, the Sirenids remained steadfast, their spirits unbroken. They continued to sing, to heal, and to build lives for themselves, knowing that Earth would stand by them. And humanity, inspired by the Sirenids' courage and resilience, stood united in their commitment to protect these gentle beings who had suffered so much. By the end of that year, a new alliance was forged between Earth and the Sirenids, a pact that went beyond protection. It was a promise to build a future together, one in which all beings, regardless of their origins, could live in peace. The sanctuary was expanded to accommodate other species in need, creating a multicultural community where everyone was valued and respected. It became a living testament to the idea that, even in a galaxy filled with darkness, compassion could thrive, lighting the way forward. In time, the sanctuary became known as a place of healing and transformation, a symbol of hope for oppressed species across the galaxy. And at the heart of it all was the unbreakable bond between humanity and the Sirenids, a testament to the power of kindness, resilience, and the courage to stand together against injustice. Chapter 4. A Home Among the Stars. As the years passed, the bond between Earth and the Sirenids transformed into a powerful alliance that extended beyond borders, races, and even planets. The sanctuary on Earth grew into something much more profound: a community, a beacon, and an example for the entire galaxy. What had begun as a mission of rescue had blossomed into a movement, challenging the galaxy's long-standing tolerance of exploitation and oppression. With each passing day, news of the Sirenid sanctuary on Earth spread to more distant systems. Stories circulated of the Sirenids who had once been voiceless captives, now standing shoulder to shoulder with humans, sharing their knowledge, culture, and strength. They were no longer seen as weak or helpless, but as symbols of resilience and unity, embodying the spirit of those who refuse to be broken by suffering. Earth's sanctuary became a meeting point for various alien species, each arriving with tales of their own hardships, seeking the same refuge and healing the Sirenids had found. The humans and Sirenids welcomed them, expanding the sanctuary to accommodate new allies, new families, and new friends. It became a multicultural haven, a place where beings of different origins lived together in harmony, sharing their knowledge and learning from one another. The sanctuary was no longer just a home for the Sirenids. It was a living testament to the strength of compassion. One day, a delegation from the Galactic Federation arrived on Earth, eager to see the sanctuary for themselves. They had watched Earth's influence grow, their presence on the galactic stage shifting from a mere planetary power to a moral authority. Representatives from powerful species were skeptical, even uneasy, about the influence Earth and the Sirenids had begun to wield. They had come not just to observe, but to judge, to decide whether this sanctuary was indeed a place of peace or a potential threat to the established order. The Federation delegation was met by Commander Lien Prescott, who had become a celebrated figure across the galaxy. Her mission to rescue the Sirenids and her unwavering dedication to justice had earned her the respect of both humans and aliens alike. She led the delegation on a tour through the sanctuary, introducing them to Sirenid healers, human volunteers, and alien refugees who had found a new life within its protective borders. The delegation was stunned by what they saw. They met Sirenids who had once been captives, now teachers and healers, sharing their ancient wisdom with beings from across the galaxy. They saw humans working alongside them, learning the intricacies of Sirenid empathy and art, while teaching them about Earth's technology and scientific advancements. Children of all species played together in the open fields, their laughter filling the air, a testament to the unity that had grown within the sanctuary's walls. During the tour, Lien introduced the delegates to Eileen, the young Sirenid who had once proposed the idea of a shared song between humans and Sirenids. She had grown into a prominent figure, beloved by both humans and her fellow Sirenids. Eileen greeted the delegation with calm dignity, her serene presence and gentle words carrying the weight of her people's history and resilience. She spoke of the journey her people had taken, of their suffering and survival, and of the peace they had finally found on Earth. Moved by her words, the delegation could not deny the impact Earth had made on the Sirenids and other vulnerable species. They were forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that their own inaction had allowed such suffering to continue unchecked for centuries. The delegates returned to their respective worlds with a new understanding, realizing that Earth's example had the potential to reshape the galaxy's approach to interspecies relations, moving it toward compassion and justice. In the months that followed, the Galactic Federation faced mounting pressure to change. Other species, inspired by Earth's sanctuary, began demanding protections for those who had been exploited and marginalized. Laws were passed to crack down on trafficking and exploitation, creating pathways to freedom and support for species who had been previously overlooked. Earth, once a relatively unknown planet on the fringes of the galaxy, had become a catalyst for change, challenging the status quo and inspiring hope among countless beings. But not everyone was pleased with this shift. Factions within the Federation, wealthy, powerful entities that had profited from exploitation, saw Earth's influence as a direct threat to their interests. Unwilling to let go of their hold on the galaxy, these factions began organizing in secret, plotting ways to undermine Earth's sanctuary. There were attempts to sow dissent within the sanctuary's community, efforts to sabotage Earth's reputation, and even mercenary attacks aimed at frightening the Sirenids and their allies into submission. However, Earth and the Sirenids were prepared. They had anticipated resistance and, with their allies' support, fortified the sanctuary's defenses, enlisting the help of skilled security forces from both human and alien backgrounds. Sirenids, once gentle and pacifist, trained in non-lethal defense tactics, determined to protect the home they had come to cherish. Together, they stood as a united front, a coalition dedicated not just to survival, but to the preservation of their hard-won peace. The sanctuary's resilience in the face of these attacks only strengthened its reputation across the galaxy. Word spread of Earth's unbreakable commitment to the Sirenids and other oppressed species, and soon, new allies came forward. Members of other planets began sending supplies, medical aid, and even volunteers to support the sanctuary. Former slaves, now free thanks to the growing anti-trafficking efforts, journeyed to Earth to offer their gratitude and lend their voices to the sanctuary's cause. One evening, as the sun set over the sanctuary, Eileen gathered the community for a special ceremony. The Sirenids had crafted a new song, a piece dedicated to the bond they shared with humanity and the sanctuary they had built together. The song, titled Home Among the Stars, was a tribute to all who had fought and sacrificed to create a place where they could live without fear. As Eileen's voice rose, joined by the harmonious hum of the other Sirenids, a profound silence settled over the sanctuary. Humans, Sirenids, and beings from across the galaxy stood side by side, listening as the song unfolded, each note carrying the weight of the struggles and triumphs they had shared. It was a song of survival, of hope, and of a future that belonged to all of them. For many who listened that night, the song became a symbol of their shared journey. It echoed the message that had brought them together, that no being should be forced to live in chains, and that freedom and peace were worth any cost. As the final notes faded into the night, the crowd stood in silence, bound together by a promise to protect what they had built. The sanctuary's influence continued to spread, and soon, other planets began establishing their own sanctuaries, inspired by Earth's example. The galaxy was changing, one small haven at a time, driven by the vision of a future where beings of all kinds could live freely. And at the heart of this change was the unbreakable bond between Earth and the Sirenids, a bond forged in compassion, resilience, and the courage to stand up for what was right. Years later, the sanctuary would be remembered as the spark that had ignited a movement, a beacon that had lit up the stars with the message of hope and unity. And Earth, once a distant, unassuming world, had found its place among the stars not as a conqueror, but as a guardian, a friend, and a home.